Hi everybody and welcome back to our YouTube channel. We are as always your hosts Arne and Carlos.
And about 6 years ago we did a YouTube episode. We opened what I call a can of worms. We got a lot of backlash, a lot of people very upset with us. A lot of people did support us though. We're talking about the infamous dominant color video that we did. And in that video we actually claimed that that this dominant color issue did not exist in Norwegian knitting. And here we are, 6 years later. It took us 6 years to think about this, especially all the backlash and all the negative comments that we got, and took us a while to process everything and read everybody's point of views and try to figure this out. So we decided it was about time that we revisited this particular thing that is now an occurrence in knitting. A lot of people talk about it. A lot of people do videos on it. There's, it's all over social media. And I think it's time that we come back with our 2 cents again and try to put some more light on the issue.
Yeah, because sometimes when we do workshops, we still get that question, which color do you use as the dominant color? And we normally say we don't do it.
Yeah,
and actually we still say we don't do it.
Right, and traditionally, now if you look back at Colorwork knitting in Norway, which has its roots back to around 1830. So we're looking at the period from 1830 up until the 70s, the 80s. We would say that traditionally Norwegian knitters, they do not aspire to have a dominant color. What they would prefer is that both their stitches were the same size instead of having one stitch larger than the other because of the way they're holding the yarn. So
because that's what we talk about, the different sizes on the stitches. So the bigger stitches are the dominant color and the smaller stitches are not dominant. So we're not talking about using more of one color. It's the different tension on the two yarns.
Yeah, so if we change our wording and say, we no longer say that it doesn't exist because we have seen that it definitely exists. But if we change our wording and we say that Norwegians traditionally do not aspire to have a dominant color in their knitting. And now we're talking historically, we're not talking about what people learn here in Norway on YouTube today. We're looking back, we're looking at past generations, and we're looking historically. Dominant color was not a thing. This is something that has come later on. Somebody invented the whole thing by looking at Colorwork and figuring out
they
that
saw it was uneven.
They saw that maybe something was uneven.
Because it's not many years ago, our publisher told us that they had a book they should translate, and in the book it was written about dominant color, and our publisher didn't know what that was, and she was asking around in the publishing house if there were anybody who knew what this was, and no one had heard about it, so they had to Google it. And then they understood that it was uneven tension.
And we also discussed this matter with Arne Sundberg, who is one of the is the greatest knitting authority, at least in Norway, on colorwork knitting. And she agrees with us, and not only that, but she also showed us a technique that helps you correct this issue if you get it. That we'll show you a little bit later. But looking at history, people would have wanted their knitting to be as pristine and perfect and as even as possible because it would have been their income. Especially if we're looking at the Selbu history, that became a big export, and people were hand knitting these and making a living out of it. Traditionally, they would have needed to have knitted perfect samples. And keep in mind, we're human beings, we're not machines, and when you do something by hand, of course, there is going to be a little bit of unevenness because we're not machines, obviously.
But if you don't like that, you have to buy a knitting machine.
Exactly. But there is always going to be an aspect of an uneven knitting, and that goes for everybody, including us. Sometimes a stitch will be a little bit bigger than another stitch. It happens. But what we don't think our ancestors and our forefathers would have liked would have been for that to be constantly in a design. They would have not wanted half the stitches to have been double the size of the other half. And they would have invented methods to fix this or to try to avoid it.
And that was a big no-no when I learned to knit. the tension should be even.
Yeah.
And like in Selbu also, they had to have this central where they had to vet the mittens that were handed in, because when it became popular to make these mittens, a lot of people made them because there was money to earn. And it ended up with having these people who had to look through all the knitted pieces, because not everything was nice. You couldn't sell something that was not nicely knitted.
Yeah.
And that's why they had that central.
So in our opinion, when you knit something, if you have, an occasional stitch that is a little bit larger than another one, here and there, a couple ones, that's just adding to the charm. There's also a nice way to fix that. You just
stretch it and they pop in place normally.
Pull your knitting, they pop in place, and then you can actually also pull and then put a wet towel over, and you can do a little iron, and when you do that, these stitches magically go back in. And even if one stitch here or there shows as a little bigger, it's okay. It's a handmade product, and it should show that.
But if you constantly have to look for that while you're knitting, it takes away a little bit of the joy, actually, because you get so obsessed by looking for the different sizes on the stitches, and it shouldn't be like this. I think you should just knit and enjoy it.
So if you're a new beginner when it comes to color work and you are already very confused about the whole dominant color thing, our suggestion is to just ignore it. Just don't think about it, and then try to work on your tension and try to get your colors right. Try to get everything in more or less the same size, and try to enjoy it. And then later on, if you want to go into the dominant color idea, you can do so. But then you would probably need to look for projects where the dominant color becomes some sort of a special effect, where the designer has intentionally asked for you to do it, so that maybe the whites are more dominant or the blacks are more dominant, depending on what the design is like. But let's call that a modern thing. This is a design feature that will be more modern. But going back to the traditional color work, aspire to have your stitches more or less the same size. We're going to show you 2 hacks that can help you achieve that.
Yep.
The first hack is the one that Arne showed us, and she told us that the knitters in Setesdal, who were prolific, sometimes when they were knitting, they would notice that the lies on the row below were a little bit loose, and so they came up with this technique to tighten up that secondary color.
So I'm going to knit over to the lies. It's just one needle, so to show you. So on this next needle, I have three black and 1 white. And what Arne showed us was on a row like this, sometimes, like if you knitted 1 or 2 rows, you know if your tension is off. And what you can do then is that you actually, on the next row, when you knit only black, you lift the bar up
of the white
put that up on the needle and knit it together with
a black stitch.
So you have it up there, and then you knit it like this, and then it's stuck behind the work. So another one, put that up and knit it with. So now, then you lift it up on the next one, then it's stuck. So you tighten it up that way.
Yeah, and that way you're taking a stitch that is loose and you're tightening it up. Now, if the stitch is tight enough and you do that, it'll pucker. Yeah. So one does this only with the stitches that are loose.
Yeah.
And this is a very old technique to help the knitting become more even, considering that many of these garments would have been made for the people to wear them themselves, but also some would be sold. And obviously you want to sell something that looks good.
And now you see I did that, but now you see the white became smaller, so my tension wasn't that bad.
No.
But now
this is just to show.
Yeah, but now the white is too small, you see. And then the other way to do it is that when you do color work, the way we do it is that the one we use the most on the round is on the finger. And the other one, we use less, we throw that in. So if you have like 3 and then you throw this one in, and then you have time to check that they actually are looking the same.
Yeah.
And then if in the pattern, if it change, so you have more of the white, then the white goes on the finger.
In this case, if you look at the whole design, you're thinking the black is the main color, so you have to hold that all the time in one hand and then the white in the other. Instead of thinking that, look at the individual row and see how many stitches of black you have in a row. And if you have more black stitches than white, then put that over the finger. Yeah. If you, in the next row, have more of the white stitches in the row, then you change. This way, you are changing the yarns, and that way, the tension is becoming more even because you're always evaluating which is the one I'm knitting the most. And also by throwing in the second color, you can enable it to lie down neatly and get the right tension. Now, also, a lot of Norwegians knit like you, Arne, but a lot of Norwegians also knit with 2 yarns over the finger.
And then you add, it's the same thing. Like if you knit with both yarns on the finger, and you constantly have them like this, like the black close to the needle and the white further away, and you constantly knit like this, you will also get what they call dominant color. So when you do this, you also have to switch to avoid that if you want to avoid it.
Yeah.
So in that case, you have to move the white, so that comes closer to the finger or to the needle, and then the black is further away, like this. So just move them around to avoid dominant color. I'm not doing a pattern right now. This is
just for fun. So to conclude this episode, let's just go back and say that in traditional Norwegian knitting, and we can only speak for Norway, traditionally Norwegians would have not aspired to have had the dominant color. They would have aspired to have had all the stitches the same. They would have aspired to have had the specific gauge according to the needle. So for example, in a 3.5 millimeter or a 3 millimeter needle, they would have aspired to have 22 stitches if they were using a DK yarn, regardless of whether they were doing a solid one color or the Colorwork. So they want to have the same tension down here and up here. That would have been historically. And personally, we agree that it's better to work on the tension. The whole dominant color theory is something that, in our opinion, is newer. It popped up, well, I don't know how recently, but it's not been here very long.
I don't remember when
maybe
I heard
10,
about
15
it the first
years.
time. Probably 10 years, maybe.
And it's things that until then Norwegians had never heard of. Today, of course, many younger Norwegians will disagree with us because they may have learned from YouTube, for example, and they may have, found that these techniques work for them, which is fine. And personally, we think that the tension is the most important, and that new beginners should aspire to get even tension and forget about the dominant color. And then you can go to that later on if you wish.
And we also find it easier to control the tension if we let one of the yarns go and we throw it in when we need it. And alternating the yarn you pick and throw is really helpful to get more even tension. And on some knit, like if you do one in each color, it's so easy to lose the tension if you don't switch.
Yeah. And in the end of the day, it's all a personal choice. So if you want to have even tension when you do your color work, you've got a couple of hacks now that you can use to your advantage to disguise or even get rid of this dominant color. If you prefer having the dominant color in your garments, that is actually up to you. And there's really no right and no wrongs in knitting. In the end of the day, it's all about the end result and whether you're happy or not with your end result. So I think we're going to leave it at that. It's been 6 years since we did our first video. I can't say that we have changed our view very much.
No, we still don't do it.
Although
we try to avoid it.
We try to avoid it, and we do acknowledge that it exists and it is a thing. But we also feel that it's nothing that you really need to think about too much. Just enjoy your knitting and work on your tension, and all will be good in the end, right?
I think it will be fine.
Yeah. So we hope we've clarified a few things.
Yeah.
And please be nice to us in the comments. It is, after all, innocent fun that we're all having here with our knitting.
Yeah, mostly. We try to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we hope that you have enjoyed this episode, and please give us a thumbs up. We might get a few thumbs down too, though, Arne, because this is a can of worms.
This is when you break the internet.
No, not really.
No, you talk about that.
Anyway, like and subscribe, and turn on your notifications so that you never miss an episode. And if you need additional content from us, consider becoming a member of our channel. We've got weekly 15-minute catch-ups. We've got shenanigans and tons of other fun things to enjoy here on our channel. And I think, Arne, that to conclude this episode, why don't we go back to the time when we talked about this with Annemor, and let's have Annemor Sundbø explain how to tighten up the lice in case people didn't see it properly from you. Maybe they'll see it properly from her. So on that note, thank you so much for watching, and see you again soon.
See you soon.
Bye.
I think before we start,
I know,
Annemor
before we
wants to
start,
show us
we have a
something.
little technique that we're gonna learn.
Yeah. So how to show, because as I said, we can see on the back side if these strands or the float, what do you call it, strand,
the float.
are very even. But on hand knitting, very often the one color comes up more, what you call dominating. So to get the lice smaller.
The same size as the other one, the background.
Yeah, because you want them all the same size.
So how do you do that? Your way.
We can see the back side that it's no strands. I knit the 3 that should be between when you knit.
Nice.
And then I lift up the strand and knit it together with.
Oh.
I knit 3. And then I lift.
From the,
Yeah. And if this had been mittens or gloves with this pattern, it's very, because you have the long strands.
Yeah, you can put your
But
fingers
here you
in
don't get strands at all. So you can
and
see.
then the white gets smaller also. If
Yeah,
it's
it
big,
gets smaller
if
and
it's too
more
big.
stable. You don't have to, very often if you have a bottom here, you can suddenly come to.
Is that an old technique or?
Yeah, so I have sweaters. Maybe you can also see it on some of this in the Setesdal exhibition, I'm not sure. So,
Wow, this is a very good
because-
one, huh?
yeah.
Because we all when we knit we don't touch the strands under normally. Especially when it's 3 stitches between, we just leave it. But we never have more than 3 or 4. If then it's too long. Then you
Yeah,
have,
when I'm knitting the lice, I have both on my finger.
yeah, I can't do that because then my tension is so uneven. So
Yeah.
Okay, so.
yeah,
But then you knit 1, 2, 3, and then it's a little bit looser.
Yeah.
and that's why I don't do it, because I don't like the looser one. But then you
Yeah,
fix
but
it that way.
you fix
So-
it this
But this way
Yeah.
you fix it, so
Yeah.
you get it loose and then you tighten it up, which is actually quite clever. And actually,
I
I
will
like
try- I will
like
try
the
that. I
I
never
like the
tried it
inside.
before.
Yeah, I'm
That's
sure you
smart.
can see it in the book, maybe on the neck. Not here, but here I think.
I have to try it. Can I try it?
Yeah,
So you knit 3.
So she already did
No.
one.
You should already do it
it's
there.
the one in between.
Yeah, so like this.
You can see here, it's done.
Yeah, you can see it clearly on that. I have to practice this at home.
Lift it up and knit it together with the.
So you go lift it up
Lift it up over
on the needle
on the needle.
and you knit it together.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how we fix holes in socks.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, there's always sometimes there's a hole.
Yeah.
We just go on the back and lift like this and knit it together.
But we never thought to do it with.
But it's a nice way to get those white stitches more even with the black.
Yeah.
It's really good.
It's also done in different other sweaters.
Yeah.
So
Oops.
See, we learned something.
yeah, that was
Good.
my little trick.
That's a good trick.
When you knit this white blouse, you need to take the strands from behind over the needle and knit it together with the stitch in between. Then you knit 1, 2, 3, lift up the strands over the needle, knit 1,
Very nice.
2, 3, strands over the needle, knit. And it will be hidden on the back side.
Yeah.
You will not see it on the front here. And then you have...
And it's a good tricks, like especially when you knit both from the fingers, because they will never be the same size,
Yeah.
hardly never. So if you do it like that, you tighten up the loose
you tighten up your
stitch.
loose stitch and everything becomes even. A great way to do it if you're knitting both colors from the finger. So this was a fantastic educational time spent with you, Arne. Thank you so much for doing this for us, and thank you so much for taking part of this adventure of ours in Setesdal for 2 episodes.
Hi, we're Arne and Carlos, and thank you for choosing our YouTube channel.
And thank you so much for watching our videos as well. And if you like what you see here, we would love it if you would give us a big thumbs up, like and subscribe to our channel. Also, lots of people are curious about our membership. So here's a little sneak peek of what you get as additional content if you do choose to become a member.
Hello, members of the YouTube channel.
I know you're waiting for me.
I'm waiting.
Yeah, but we just had lunch and I have to clean my kitchen. I need to clean my counter.
Cool. I think Eric is
ready.
approaching. Yeah.
Take a close-up on Eric now.
Good morning and welcome to Ålesund.
Yes.
Welcome to our happy place here on YouTube.
Hello.